Bonjour, and welcome to the Amateur Detective Club. This club is exactly how it sounds. A bunch of amateurs talking about their favorite mysteries. So if you encounter a real mystery or a murder, contact the proper authorities. Do not come to us. We do not know what we are doing. But enjoy the program. Allons-y. Let us begin.
Quand il me prend dans ses bras, il me parle tout bas, je vois la vie en rose.
I now call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to order. I am Melissa Meli, the spy.
I am Tyler Riley, cop and a half.
And I'm Tristan Miller, kid cop, new title pending. We can't have okay, so here's the thing. I pitched us to a couple of podcast networks, and I wrote up a packet, and seeing Cop and a Half and Kid Cop next to each other in sequence, I was like,
Okay, I tried to change my name before, and you were like, it is locked in, so I don't want to hear it.
But here's the other thing, Tyler, that you haven't considered. I've been trying to get out of Kid Cop since they called me it, because it was not my idea.
No.
No. They decided to call me the Kid Cop, but I was like, hey, listen, no.
Wait, no, I remember because I'm a faithful listener. Right?
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely. Correct answer.
That is right. You are a faithful listener.
So,
as far as I know.
our tens of listeners. Now,
So we're going to talk about Agatha Christie's Poirot, the television series on the BBC, or formerly on the BBC. Episode 2, Murder on the Mews. We open on a bonfire.
detailed, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
This is important. We open on a bonfire and fireworks, and Poirot asking Hastings if blowing up the English Parliament is a noble deed. Seemingly referencing the fireworks. It is hilarious.
Yes.
So I didn't know what was burning at first, and I was very concerned for a minute.
I see.
And then thankfully the fireworks started going off.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's some kind of celebration or festival or something.
It's Guy Fawkes Day.
Sure.
The 5th of November, the gunpowder, treason, and plot.
That's
Yes.
fine with me.
Okay.
Hastings, in his usual fashion, muses. See what I did there?
Oh.
Hastings muses on about how this would be a perfect night for a murder or a shooting of some sort. Cut
What a
to-
good night for a murder is the thing that he actually says.
Yes, and several times. He says it once, trying to make the joke work, nobody laughs, and he's like, no, but this would be a perfect night for a murder.
Right? Am I
And I was
right?
like, good, really? God damn it, Hastings. Gosh darn it, Hastings. Cut. Oh, go ahead.
There was a moment that made me nostalgic for a time which I've never been a part of, which was at a certain point, Hastings does, they end their conversation, and Hastings just turns to them and says, well, I'm leaving now, goodbye. And then they just leave, and I'm like, I miss that, where you can just go, I'm going now, and then you leave, and everyone's like, oh, he has other things to do. There's no are we still friends? Because I feel like there's this weird thing with this current generation of there's so much anxiety around social interactions, and then also since we're always texting each other, you're never really saying goodbye, which is beautiful in a way, but also I want some privacy.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's true. It takes me about half an hour to leave every single party I attend.
Whereas just the boldness to go goodbye and then walk immediately from them.
I've just started announcing myself just to the room I'm leaving. And I if you want to say more to me, that is your opportunity. If not, I'm gonna just keep walking out the door. I don't have time for this.
That's fair.
I got sleep.
Sleep is important.
What happens next?
So Hastings again muses on about how perfect a night it would be for murder. The next morning we find Poirot in his office, and he gets a call from Jap, who says, you know how Hastings was going on about how it would be a perfect night for gunfire to go off? So that happened.
Also, Miss Lemon comes in, and she is wearing a really wonderful green belted dress that I want.
Yes, Christina said the exact same thing as well.
Nice.
Question, does it have pockets?
Probably not.
No, I would
because
say
this was
no.
a time where we
They
were still
hadn't-
being oppressed by not having pockets.
Oh, I was going to say they hadn't even invented pockets yet.
Oh no, men had pockets.
Well, that
Men
seems
need
unfair.
pockets.
Yes, it's very unfair.
Oh, I
Women
see.
need pockets too. We're forced to carry huge purses because we don't have pockets. Pockets in all dresses. That is my
Viva la
campaign.
revolution.
Pockets for humanity.
Pockets for humanity.
A new 501c3 that I will be starting.
You would get so much attention. I'm not even kidding you.
I think I got to start it now.
You're just going into H&M's, pulling inside out and then just sewing pockets
Sewing
in.
pockets
It's
into
technically
dresses.
vandalism, but it's for a good
No,
cause.
more people would actually buy it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you now.
Then I'm starting with FUBU, if they make dresses.
Don't know.
No idea.
You have no idea what FUBU is?
No, I
Oh, okay.
just don't know if they make
Make
dresses.
dresses. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Glad we cleared that up.
Yeah, I was like about to go into this whole diatribe that for our listeners is thankfully avoidable. So Jap is like, so that happened. And they go to investigate the home of the deceased Mrs. Allen.
I would also like to interject something.
Oh,
Poirot, during this time, has been having a hard time with the starchness of his collars for his shirts.
Oh, we get into
Oh, you
that.
get into it? Okay. Okay, good. Because that's the real crime here.
That's later.
Yep.
And while looking over the house of Mrs. Allen, who lives with a Mrs. Plenderleith?
Plenderleith.
But Mrs. Plenderleith, who will now henceforth be known as Mrs. P,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know if my pronunciation is correct.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So the cops are looking over the house, and one relays that it seems to be staged to look like a suicide, as only a portion of the thumb and forefinger print are found on the gun.
Mm.
All the doors and windows were locked, but there is no sign of a key. Yeah. Jap interviews Mrs. P, who is away for the weekend in Essex. She met Mrs. Allen while she was looking for a roommate and reveals that Mrs. Allen, the deceased, was to be engaged to a man named Charles, who Mrs. P is not at all fond of.
Not at all.
No, not
She is
not even a
not
little
here
bit.
for him in the least.
She calls him pompous, I think, at one point.
They also confirmed that Mrs. Allen was indeed right-handed, even though the gun by her body was found in her left hand.
And there was no suicide note.
There's
Also.
no note at all.
Yeah, no
That is
note.
right.
Very important.
Mm-hmm.
They leave, and Hastings has been conversing with a child, and it relays that Mrs. Allen checked her mailbox at 6 in the evening.
Two things.
Sorry?
Three things. Sorry. Three things and a pony. No, three things. One, very funny, good. Two, the child actor is very good, I thought. I've enjoyed his performance very much. Number three, also when they're interviewing Mrs. P, there's some allusion to her having feelings for the person that was murdered.
Mrs.
Allen?
Allen?
Yeah, there's a lot of lesbian subtext in this one.
Really?
You know, it did feel like that.
Yep.
I don't think that's what they were going for.
But there's she's in pants later on, and it's the 1930s. She's in pants. She's definitely in love with that woman.
I like that. I like it. Like, we'll go with it.
Okay, that's me.
Hashtag Pockets for Humanities.
Yes, they talk to a child.
It also says that about 9:30, a man pulled up to the flat, and it gives a pretty good description of the gentleman. He said he has kind of like a military build and a mustache.
So it
And
could
as-
literally be anybody, any English person, because everyone has a gosh darn mustache in this show.
Not Charles.
Not Charles.
Not Charles.
Not Charles.
That's
he don't.
true.
He
He's
is
too young and too pompous.
He's got that weird Guy Pearce looking face of his.
And wait, does Hastings have a mustache?
I know he does not.
No, that's true.
But Jap and Poirot do, and almost
do.
all of the detectives/police officers also have mustaches.
yeah.
They all look like they're from Tintin. Please continue.
Oh, I do want to reiterate again that it says that Mrs. Ellen checked her mailbox around 6 in the evening.
Mm.
That's
yes.
important.
She posts letters.
Yes. The gentleman left the flat about an hour after arriving, and his last words were, "Think it over, let me know." It is said that the gentleman was the one who also closed the door to the flat and not Mrs. Allen. Because there was a lot of mention about how the doors and windows were all locked
Yes.
and no sign of a key.
And also, I think that it was just in the doorway that they were having this conversation.
Yes.
So the kid didn't hear what she responded. So the insinuation is that they're kind of in the doorway, but she's not visible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Finding my place.
Dead's break.
Taking notes, taking notes. Next we find Poirot and Jap paying a visit to the fiancé, Charles, who is seemingly shocked about the death, but also terrified that the news will get out.
Yeah.
More so than, like, he's frightened that, like, oh gosh, has the media been told about this?
Yeah.
I'm like, really, dude?
And then he gets a call from the Prime Minister.
Yeah, he works in government somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is also... He also reacts the same way. I think, to be honest, I think he would react more strongly to, like, his car being towed. Like, he has no... He's just like, oh God, what happened? And, like, that's about as in-depth as he gets. He
Yeah.
doesn't, like, get emotional. And you can see it specifically on Jap's face of, like, what the heck, dude? Your fiance is dead. You gotta... Okay, fine. We'll talk to you later.
And Poirot actually comes up to the desk as he's on the phone, like, hey, you okay? You okay, buddy? And he's like, oh, stiff upper lip and all that. It's the British way.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, dude. I mean, you wrong, but you're not wrong, though. So, Charles rushes Jap and Poirot out when he received the phone call. And he also seemed very unsure about whether she was left or right-handed. But then emphatically states that, she was right-handed.
Yep.
I'm like, sure, buddy, we believe ya.
Why not?
Most people are.
Yeah.
That is true.
That is
Like,
true.
so it's a good, like, default guess.
We then jump to Poirot and Mrs. Lemon, and an awkward, awful, racist behind conversation about a Chinese laundromat.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, let's get into it. Come on.
It was, God.
Oh.
And then, like, Hastings gets in on it, and they do, like, really awful...
Broken English.
Yes.
But, I mean, to their credit, none of them tries an accent, which is, like, the one godsend in this situation. But I will also say this. Agatha Christie's, all of her works with Poirot that we've been through, they all have weird connotations with Asian people. And I want to know what was going on during that time in England where that would be the case.
There was a lot of trade being done around that time, because if you also read the plays of Noel Coward, there is a lot of not so great stuff about that part of the world as well.
Yeah, and from my understanding, they also we later on we go to like an opium den that's also quote unquote Oriental themed, which is also like I think one of the issues they seem to have with the Asian immigrants that were coming over is like they're bringing all this tomfoolery and drugs, which is nice for us, but we're also going to judge them. Like it's one of those things.
It's very, sometimes I wonder if Agatha, like back in her time, thought she was handling this in a sensitive way.
Sure.
You know, because it's obviously terrible to us. I just wonder this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she was succeeding at it
No.
because she was failing terribly. But
Yeah.
I wonder if that was what she was trying to do. I don't
By
know.
virtue of bringing it up, she's addressing the issue.
I have no idea.
Also, in defense of Agatha,
Mm-hmm.
I have not read the book on which this particular episode is based. This
Yeah.
episode was done in the 80s.
Yeah.
Late
Yeah.
80s.
88 or 89?
I believe it's 89. I
Yeah.
could be wrong about that, but like,
We
they could have done better
Yeah,
with
the
the
TV
writing of this episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
The TV show absolutely could have done better.
Yeah.
Yes,
Which is a bummer.
it is.
And it's played for humor, and it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just kept sitting there like bracing myself, like holding my breath, like oh no, and yeah.
And I'm like, just another Tuesday.
Yeah.
But it all revolves around like Poirot, like his color stays, like
Yeah.
just not being up to his standards.
And so he can't think properly because of it's a whole order thing.
Yes.
In the meantime, he's rearranging the bookshelf as he's on the phone, as he's dictating this.
It's very pre-monk.
Yes.
Next to my notes, I put, Jap soon arrives, but not soon enough.
Yep.
That's very good.
And he reveals that Mrs. P's alibi checks out, but that they all still believe her to be hiding something, so they set off to question her yet again.
Yes.
And they have a mystifying conversation about how Poirot was sniffing.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is a good
Yeah.
point.
And he says that there were cigarettes in the ashtray, but that he didn't smell any cigarette smoke. But it was not as clear as what I just said.
Yeah.
It was very weird and confusing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like Poirot was trying to make it more confusing for everybody.
Because he does love being convoluted. That little weird man.
Yep.
Weirdman. Little weirdman.
Little weird man. They ask Mrs. P about the gentleman, General Eustace. And Inspector Jap brings up the idea of blackmail, and Mrs. P goes, "Yes, of course. Why didn't I think of that? That's obviously the thing, and I'm not lying or covering anything up at all. That's blackmail. Yay, go team."
That is a direct quote.
Her performance in that moment is absolutely absurd, and I love it so much. I was watching that part of the episode before you guys came over, and it's just like, of course. Yes. It's so good.
I paused it after that moment, and I was like, there has to be a gif of this somewhere, and I couldn't find one. I'm like,
Such a shame.
Jap goes off to explore the rest of the house, and Mrs. P and Poirot sit and smoke.
They do.
Very awkwardly.
Yes.
It is amazing.
Jap returns a few moments later and finds a locked cabinet and asks for the key, which Mrs. P awkwardly replies that she is unaware of its location. But like when he's like, "Oh, guess I'll just have to break it open then," and she's like, "Oh, it might be upstairs," and then she finds it like 2 seconds later.
Yep.
Very, very good. Not suspicious at all.
They find seemingly nothing of note other than just a briefcase that Mrs. P took with her to Essex. They search the briefcase, don't really find anything. They close up the cabinet, and they return to ask Charles and inquire about Eustace with him. This is where they're in the... no, never mind. They're at this pool.
They're at a
we're at a
pool.
pool.
For
Which
some
is
reason.
amazing. Big fan. Big fan of an indoor pool.
I also am a fan of an indoor pool as well.
I like an indoor pool.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. We all just like acknowledged it and just went with it. Like we just... I love it.
Teamwork, teamwork.
All right, Mrs. P.
So Charles is awful,
Yes.
Yes.
and I hate him very much.
Yeah, no, he's a real
And
piece of work.
what a terrible man. Okay.
Yeah, and he gives an excuse that he was at the House of Commons and like walked home, but like nobody saw him walk home, and apparently he didn't run into anybody, even though this festival and fireworks thing was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm like, all right, dude.
Sure.
And he arrives home around 11:30.
Which is the time of death. That's what they're putting it at,
Ooh.
I believe.
Yes.
Yes. And also, he says that he didn't like Major Eustace.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were married, that they wouldn't have been able to be friends, and that she and Major Eustace wouldn't have been able to be friends anymore, as well as some other people that she was friends with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, when she's my wife, she wouldn't be able to associate with that sort or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Like, cool, dude, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Good. Good.
Cut to more vaguely racist Chinese things.
Yes.
Where they find General Eustace, who they then discover smokes Turkish cigarettes. Dun dun dun.
And Poirot had noted that some of the cigarettes in the ashtray were Turkish cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys had Turkish coffee?
Yes, it's
Yes.
very good.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm very glad that we've all had that.
All in favor?
Aye. All in favor of Turkish delights?
Nay.
What?
I've had it once. I didn't care for it. It's very chewy.
I don't care
Maybe
for you.
we didn't make them. We didn't make them from scratch at home, so they might have just been bad. Also, having read Chronicles of Narnia, he plays them up so much.
Because they are a delight.
They are. Hence
Fair.
the name.
Fine.
It's
I
okay.
see how it is.
You can like the things that you like, and you know.
No, he can't.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Eustace mentioned that he heard of Mrs. Allen's death in the paper.
Sorry, I don't know why that that surprised me. I don't know. I've seen the episode twice. Don't know why. Still, she's dead. I thought she was asleep.
We've been talking about this for 20 minutes, and yet. Good.
Oh boy. He then admits that he met with Mrs. Allen the night of her death. And he says his last words to her would be that he would ring her up.
Mm-hmm.
And Jap is like, well, hate to break it to you, bud, but I happen to have it on good authority that your last words
From a street urchin who fixes cars, and we did pay him.
Yes. That you said to her, think it over, let me know. Catch me outside. How about that?
A direct quote from Agatha Christie's Poirot series.
We have said many times that Christie was ahead of her time and behind the times in a lot of ways.
Simultaneously, but if you're ahead of your time and behind on your time, does that make you just in the present? Do they equal and opposite force?
Well,
No.
judging by our political climate, I would say yes.
No. Got him.
Yeah, he doesn't really. Eustace doesn't have much to say on that other than
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, well, I mean, who can remember words?
The words.
And again, he's acting super shady.
He is. He's very
Everyone's
anxious.
acting super shady. Actually, except for Charles.
Mm-hmm.
Charles is not acting that shady.
just
He's just terrible.
Yes.
Yeah. Eustace says that Alan trusted him with investments, and then Jap presses him about a missing 200 pounds.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know about that. Why would I know about that one? Huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty?
Gets very weird about it.
Yeah.
Eustace's events of the evening were that they met 9:30. They sat in the downstairs room and smoked. Jap asked to see his cufflinks. Ooh. Important note.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, when they first searched the room, I didn't think it was important at the time, but it ended up being somewhat important.
Mm-hmm.
When they first searched the home of Mrs. Allen and they discovered the placement of the gun in her left hand and all of that business, they found what seemed to be a piece of a broken cufflink.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So now jump to where we just were. Jap asked to see General Eustace's cufflinks, and it is revealed that he has broken cufflinks because apparently he only has one pair of cufflinks.
Right. I loved that too.
I do like how at one point they insinuate like, oh, you, because like a bartender comes up and goes, we're out of gin, and he gives him the key, and they're like, oh, you own this place? And he's like, no, I do work here though, but I am just an assistant manager at this, I guess, British old Applebee's. I don't know. This racist Applebee's, which is to say Applebee's, but...
Just kidding, Applebee's, give us money, please. We love you. And your half-price menu late at night.
But yeah, so he's poor apparently because he only has one set of cufflinks and he's an assistant manager at an Applebee's. What a sad life.
I think I have more than one pair of cufflinks.
I don't think I own cufflinks.
I don't
Now that
either.
think about
I
it.
just have buttons
Oh.
because I'm not from the 1800s.
I had 2 French cuff shirts at one point.
Oh, I
Oh,
see.
okay.
Yeah.
That's solid.
That is. They're very nice. I don't.
Cufflinks are very nice.
I
Anytime
do
I've gotten
like-
to wear them, like, as an actor in a show as part of, like, costuming, I'm like, this is great. Why don't I do this ever? And then I'm just like, nah.
No.
Cufflinks are wonderful.
They are.
All in favor of cufflinks.
Aye. Glad we're back all on the same page. Great. That negativity was bogging down my mood. Good.
Oh, cufflinks. So they're broken. And he only has one pair. And those cufflinks are a match to the cufflinks that were broken and found upstairs in the bedroom where Mrs. Allen was murdered.
Zut alors.
Wait, someone cursed? What happened?
No.
Okay.
Sometimes we just say zut alors.
Yeah, come on. Très international.
Then anticipate my curses so that you can just cover them up. So, Jep is like, oh, yes, these cufflinks, we found them upstairs. And you say you were only downstairs? Is that right, General Eustace? If that is indeed your real name. So then he gets arrested.
Yeah.
All the while protesting his innocence.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we find that Poirot goes to visit Mrs. P's estate again, who the maid or housekeeper tells Poirot that she is out playing golf.
Yes.
Poirot then convinces the maid to let him in to search the house once more.
He's very charming.
Yes.
He is. He is, if nothing else, a
Very.
charming gentleman
Yes.
with a glorious mustache.
Yes.
He discovers that the briefcase is once again missing and heads to the links to keep an eye on Mrs. P. There's a fun little golfing bit here with Poirot.
So good. No, I love this. Is my favorite scene in the whole thing.
Oh,
It's so
very
great.
good.
You want to take this bit
Sure,
over?
sure. Basically, Hastings is like trying to teach Poirot how to golf, and he's like, basically, you're trying to get it all the way to the flag over there. And he's like, okay, that kind of makes sense. I don't really know. Okay, fine, you do whatever. And then he turns to Hastings like, is it okay if I hit the flag? Which is a very bold claim. And basically, Hastings like, sure, why not? And then he whacks it, and he makes it all the way onto the green first try.
Yeah.
And the two caddies look at each other like, oh, wow. It's very pleasant. It's played for comedy. It's very charming. But on the golf course, they do stumble across Mrs. P.
Well, before that, they find several broken golf clubs that Mrs. P has seemingly left behind.
Yeah.
Poirot keeps going and rummaging around in the trash cans. And Hastings is like, could you please not? It's like, no.
We are
I'm
with my friends. Golfing with my friends. Please. You're embarrassing me.
I have to go over. Aha, another broken golf club.
And I like how Hastings is like, well, some people get very angry at the game. It's like, but
There's been like one at every hole.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a terrible. If you're getting rid of golf clubs, just break one, put it in the wastebasket, move on to the next hole, break one, put it in. Terrible methodology.
Just,
You're
like,
a bad
burn
criminal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burn the golf. Like, those were wooden golf clubs. Just burn them. There was a whole bonfire. Well, actually, not the bonfire was taking place during the
Before,
murder.
yeah.
So that
Great
would
night for
But
a
you could
murder.
still have burned those golf clubs, or like tossed them, or like given it to that child
Yeah.
as well.
As
that
like a
apparently
gift.
works around their house.
Do
As a
anything
mechanic.
So many
less
different ways.
suspicious than this.
But they eventually catch up to Mrs. P and, keep a close distance away from her.
I do love that they're trying to catch up with her by playing golf. Like, they have to do this.
Yes.
Like, they cannot get through. Like, somehow they'll unlock the next hole. It's like, oh no, we'll never catch up to her. It's like, I don't know. Just don't play golf and just, sidle up on next to her.
Well, what you need to understand is there is a genetic component to English people. When they are on a golf course, they must play.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
it's
okay.
That is true. I do feel compelled anytime I step on to the links to be like, I need a golf club. And then, I break them and leave one at a time in a bin.
Yeah.
There's just this compulsion there. So they catch up to her. And they notice that she has the briefcase with her on the links. And then she tosses the briefcase at a point into the lake. It's just like, again, because of this English compulsion, she had to play all the holes that led her to the lake in order to get rid of this briefcase.
Yes, and then it sinks very dramatically
Yes.
into the lake with
Yes.
dramatic music.
At this point, I think I should hand it over to suspects and then crime.
Okay, we've got the arrested Major Eustace, who does seem very shady.
what a Major Eustace.
Oh,
Don't know.
he did it on him.
More like Major Useless.
Oh,
snap.
We have Mrs. P, who, again, is acting super shady, even though she has this alibi, but with all of the golf club and, briefcase tossing, what's going on there?
I've done a fair share of that in my day. Briefcase tossing, you know what I mean? I'm saying?
No, I really don't know. And then we have Charles, the terrible fiance who has no alibi and just walked home from the fireworks.
Yeah.
But he's terrible.
He is terrible.
Have I mentioned that he's terrible? And those are the suspects in this crime.
Okay. You don't think the child, it could have done it? No, just me.
I think it would have been very sophisticated if that child had pulled it off. But he can repair cars, but he has absolutely no motive.
No.
That's fair.
No.
That's fair.
Other than money, he was greedy in that sequence. He was like,
yeah,
here's
he
half
asked
a
for
pence.
more.
And he's like, could you make it a shilling, gov? And he just he shoves a child away, which is very English. So that's
Correct.
as our resident English person. Yes.
Yes. So tell us how the crime went down, or
I mean, okay, so basically, the way it's found, the body, the person, that was
Mrs. Allen.
Mrs. Allen. Thank you.
the person that was.
Very
That's going on my tombstone. The person that was Melissa Meli.
That's awesome.
Oh, good.
Love it.
She was found dead, as one might expect from a crime.
Should we take a break?
Yeah, I feel like because the way it shakes out is very solvy of the crimey thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Here's a break. All in favor of a break?
Aye.
Hey Tristan,
Hey, Christina.
do you like anime?
I don't know.
Do you like me?
Yes.
Do you want to watch anime with me?
Yes.
Do you want to make it into a podcast?
Yes.
Great!
What's it gonna be called?
It's called the Animazing Podcast.
When it comes out?
It comes out every Saturday. Bye!
And we're back. Okay, so basically what happens is they found the body. She's there. She got a pistol in her left hand. Looks like a suicide. But they're like, oh, it can't be that because there's no note. And she was feeling fine, which is a nice reminder to check in on your friends, even if they feel fine. Yes.
Can I just say, like,
Yes.
pistol in my left hand looks like a suicide. Sounds like the dopest. The dopest
trap.
rap line ever. Shout out to Remy Ma for eventually listening to this podcast
Oh.
and putting it into one of her raps.
Yes, please. You can have it. We give this to you.
Please. Looks like a suicide. There's no note, so they're like, it must be murder. And basically what happens is Poirot figures out that
They go again to
Yeah.
meet with Mrs. P, right?
yes. Yeah. And basically he's like, listen, I know what happened. And she's like, listen, what? And he's like, I can't remember exactly the logic he uses, other than like the suspicion of like the cigarettes not being there. And
Sure. So there's no cigarette smell in the room.
yeah, there's no
right.
cigarette smell in the room.
But there's tons of cigarettes in the tray.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks like a setup. It's basically
Yes,
what he gets to, right?
There's the placement of the desk, like objects on the desk.
Oh,
that he
right.
Goes
The
through as
pen
well.
cup is on the left-hand side.
Yes.
And then she wears her wristwatch on
her
her
right.
hand.
And there was some, right, the whole golf club thing. All the golf clubs were left-handed clubs as well, and she was trying to dispose of the left-handed ones only.
Right. So, and also there was one other thing. Oh, right. The broken cufflink was
Yep.
there.
Mm-hmm.
However, it looked like everything had been moved.
Yeah.
Because if there's no cigarette smoke in the air
Yeah.
and there's cigarettes there,
Mm-hmm.
then the cigarettes were smoked somewhere else, just like Major Eustace had said.
Yes.
So they were moved upstairs, as was his broken cufflink. What a stroke of luck.
Yes. Yes. And so basically he's like, look, I know what happened. You hate this man, Major Eustace, because he is blackmailing your friend because they did have a kid when they were in India and they were going to get married. And then she lost the kid and then they broke up.
Is that...
Yeah, that's the reason. And then he blackmailed her because saying you're a loose woman, you are. And keeping that knowledge away from her fiancé, Charles, who would very quickly call off the engagement had he known.
Right.
And so she, hence, removing 200 pounds from the bank and then giving it to Eustace.
Yes, for the blackmails.
For the blackmails. And then her friend, Mrs. P, just hates his guts.
Yep.
So very much.
So much.
So that she framed him for murder. And Poirot basically goes, you're better than this. You can't possibly do this. You burned up the note. Because there was a note that was left. You set up everything. How dare you destroy a man's entire life just because you hate him? Can you actually do this? And she says no. And then she leaves. They just let her leave.
Yeah.
Because I guess other than like tampering with a crime scene, is there an offense there? Because basically she did commit suicide.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, like,
Right,
there's no crime. There's just a tragedy.
Yeah, I mean, they could have definitely got her on tampering with a crime scene and
Okay.
framing
Sure.
somebody for murder.
Sure.
But I think all of them were like, admit that you don't want to do this. Oh, okay, we're just gonna, we're just gonna let everybody go and it'll all be fine. Yeah, but I was gonna, okay, so I was a little confused about that bit. I didn't think that he was the person that she had the baby with. I just thought it was just a random, like,
dude from
he
India.
just knew about that she had an affair with a married man and had a baby.
I believe it was him, and think though, I could be wrong, but I do know they met in India, and they were...
Yes,
Yes.
they did meet in India, yeah.
And I know that much. So I might be in the wrong.
Okay. But either way, he was blackmailing her, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
And I really wanted her very much to say, you know what? Yeah, I do want to destroy this man's life.
I wanted that so much too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, Poirot, you're being a little... you're being a little aggressive for this woman who was actually just trying to help out her friend who she was probably in love with, as we have decided is now the subtext of this show.
Yes.
Everyone who agrees on the subtext say aye.
Aye. Okay. So the other thing was like the reason she did kill herself was the blackmail.
Yeah.
Like, and that was the instigating thing. So it does. I'm with you. Like, listen, this man did drive someone to kill themselves.
Yeah.
So that should be also a different kind of crime, but a crime that should be punished.
I mean, you should get him on the blackmail for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Is that a thing? Can you prosecute someone for blackmailing somebody?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not legal. That's extortion. It's kind of
Extortion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
And also by Poirot's own definition of murder in this case, then Eustace definitely committed murder if, destroying someone's life was murder, according to Poirot.
Yeah.
This woman killed herself because of this dude blackmailing her.
Yep.
Then that's murder then, Poirot.
Yeah. I don't know, Poirot. I think you were going after the wrong person.
Mm-hmm. He is, though. Eustace is in prison at that point.
Yeah.
And
True.
I don't know if he's waiting to get a trial or what the situation is then. In my mind, I like to think that he still goes to prison, but she doesn't, she can walk away from it knowing that she didn't, lie and wasn't a morally dubious person.
Yeah,
So I
okay.
think Poirot's kind of giving her that out.
I see.
Okay.
All right.
But
all right.
I also do think he's in the wrong to be like, this man's life is more important than your friend's, who was a woman whom you loved.
Yeah.
And I feel like the weird subtext there is like, it's just sexist.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So, are we rating?
Yes.
What do you think?
This is out of 5 mustaches, correct?
5 mustaches.
Yes,
Okay,
5
thank you.
mustaches, yes. All in favor of 5?
Aye.
We're doing this now.
Yep. Mhm. Well, it's a meeting of a club.
It's true.
So, does anyone have the minutes?
It is, what is it? It's now
45 minutes.
Okay.
I have it on my little computer. I would give this, to be honest, about a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it a lot. I really liked the scene with the golfing. I think that was very amusing. I think all the performances are solid. With the exception of Mrs. P has some moments of like, okay. Okay.
We can call that acting.
Yeah. Why not? You know what? Live and let live, says I.
Sure.
So I'd give it a solid 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
Melissa?
That's kind of where I am too. 3 out of 5.
I'm going to give it 2 and a chaplain.
All right.
I cannot excuse the racism or the perceived sexism.
That's true.
It's even in the 80s. No.
I'd forgotten about the racism, as is my want, because I am white. So I think that's going to drop it down back to a 2. I think I'm with you now.
Yeah, I mean, I was already accounting for it. I think I enjoyed the content of it, but brought
fair.
it down already. Yeah. I call this meeting adjourned.
Camel sound?
Aye.